everybody, and welcome back to another Evenings with Kirk and Murray. The COVID situation continues. We're still here. What's up, Murray?
Still here, buddy. Still here, man.
Yeah, I dig it.
You can dig it.
Yeah, it does feel like that movie, right? You think we're going to turn into the Warriors at any point in time?
I don't know, man. When you just said, I don't know why I was thinking about Shaft, man. Like the movie Shaft.
Oh, I was thinking about like the beginning of the Warriors, where he's like the guy who gets murdered is like, "Can you dig it?" And then he gets shot, and then gang warfare ensues, I guess, right?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that's just a good time all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like they handle themselves pretty well, all things considered.
Why? Are you who did?
I mean, like the gang warfare. That movie to me is like, it was like, you know what? We're like, we got to get home, and we're in this like war zone of other gangs trying to kill us, but like they weren't like pussies about it. They just did it, So I don't know. Kudos to them.
I think if you're in that situation, you got to get it done.
Hmm.
It's like, or maybe we've talked about it before, is like the weak. Well, I mean, maybe it's not the weakest, but like now I look back and I go, really? Like, was that really a bad situation? Remember the movie Judgment Night?
No, I don't think I saw that one. What was that about?
Was that the name of it? Emilio Estevez is in it.
Mighty Ducks.
Nope. This is like they go on like an RV, and they're gonna go to like a football game or a hockey game or something, and then like they get off the highway. There's a problem. They're in the bad neighborhood, and then they're on the run from like Dennis Leary. Like it's just a weird like kind of situation,
Yeah,
and
I don't. This doesn't sound familiar at all, but I kind of want to watch it now.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta look it up. But anyways, different types of gang war. Different types
called,
of.
It was called Mighty Ducks 2: Dennis Leary's Revenge.
That's when he goes nuts and takes over the neighborhood.
And he's like, "You fuck with Iceland, you fuck with me, right?"
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe it's like 2.5.
I'm thinking he like all those Mighty Duck kids, he just got pushing drugs for them.
Yeah, it's possible.
Goldberg.
Oh yeah, we know about that guy.
Didn't he become a drug addict or something?
I think he died from being a drug addict or went to jail.
Is he dead?
I don't think he didn't die. They just had a mugshot of him, and he looks like horrendous. Because those kids, they should, I mean, not kids, but like they should roughly be around like, between 30 and 40, but he looks like he's like a 70-year-old man.
They're my generation, for sure.
So,
like Joshua Jackson, right?
Yeah, or like, what's his name from SNL?
He didn't turn into a crackhead, so good for him.
No, I don't think so. It was,
no, well, he got that Dawson Creek money.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was like it showed like a thing. You got to think like it's got to be tough for some of those. Like they showed I saw a picture of like the Sandlot kids, right?
Yeah,
and it's like none of these kids did anything.
Some of them did.
I mean, like most of them didn't. Like the ones that were in the picture, there was like one guy who was like kind of did something, and then all the other people in the picture are just like, yeah, they're like, this is all what they really were known for at this point. Like they kind of like this, they get together every, I think there was like that one kid who was like the funny kid in the movie. Like he might have been in some more movies, but then he kind of aged out. Like you see him as an adult, like the chubby redhead guy.
Well, they're like 12 or 13 years old. Like they did nothing before that movie.
Oh,
they were
no,
just cast as a convenience of age and they didn't look at the camera. You know what I mean? And they could memorize some lines at that, and then boom, you're in a movie.
No, I'm just saying like that's like as a kid, if you come into something like that, like I bet it messes with you, right? Because then, especially if you don't end up finding like huge amount of success and you kind of try to hold on to it for too long, you end up like Goldberg and you doing meth and stuff.
See, this is the thing. I think Goldberg could have done more. Because everybody liked Goldberg back then. Nobody didn't like him.
He was in the show Freaks and Geeks. He had like a couple of episodes of that, like an early small way, and that show launched Judd Apatow and
a bunch of them,
Seth Rogen, whoever else, right? All those people. So like he was in a show where like he might have been at the time, everyone had been like, that's Goldberg, because these other kids were unknown, and then all these other people became super famous, and he, well,
Yeah, well, yeah, you know what? Sandlot, great movie. By the way, I like how you called that out. So that guy Joshua Jackson, though, he kind of like Mighty Ducks is what made him, and then he like fell ass backwards into Dawson's Creek, right? Like it was like Mighty Ducks right into Dawson's Creek, and then like they milked that for 3 movies, and then Dawson's Creek, and then he went into Fringe.
Oh yeah,
which was another show for like 5 years, and then like he's been around. Like he did some movies here and there, and like he keeps getting these little TV shows for like a few seasons, and then like he's pretty much been steady for the entire. What happened to that Adam Banks guy?
His wrist never healed, probably.
You know who I'm talking about, right? Like the best player, right?
Yeah, as I was saying, his wrist didn't heal. Remember, he got slashed and he didn't admit to it.
That's right.
He probably had weak wrists,
weak bones.
But I think Joshua Jackson was like also like out of all the like, because he was also like, I swear I remember seeing him
Canadian. He was Canadian.
Okay, I didn't know he was Canadian. Actually, I know he was Canadian. He's from like Vancouver, right? But
I don't know. Yeah, probably.
Or out west. But I think Joshua Jackson, even as a kid, like you'd see him and stuff, right? And then he became an adult, and then like throughout, like I guess in the transition of Dawson's Creek, but you'd see him and stuff. Those other actors, a lot of them in like those movies, you didn't see, right? So
I never saw Joshua Jackson in anything other than Mighty Ducks.
Like I never saw Averman and anything else. Averman. There's a guy named Guy or Guy. Never in anything.
I don't know, man. I know that there's a couple kids that I've seen and other things.
Luis Mendoza, the speedster who couldn't stop.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I was a pretty handsome dude. I bet he could have been in something.
I bet you he has been in something.
Mm-hmm. He's been. You know what he's been in? He's been in Goldberg's meth stash. That's kidding. But that's kind of make me think about like sports and stuff. Like I guess, and like I'm interested to know like where that's going right now, because like hockey might come back, or it is coming back, but like
straight playoffs, right? Everybody's just gonna do playoffs.
It's like a playoffs, but for only but more teams than normal, and it's like more of like a bracket, which is interesting.
Yeah, I heard round robin, and teams will play each other, and
so yeah, they have
best records will move on, and I'm good with it. I'm fine with it. I mean,
yeah, so there'd be like the first playoff. There's like 4 teams that are kind of exempt from getting the 4 best teams are exempt in a way, but they also have to play each other to seed who is the best out of the top 4.
Yeah, they're going to do a round robin.
Everybody else goes into brackets. So the first round is kind of like an elimination round. So it'd almost be like not really like the real playoffs if you get eliminated in the first round, but I don't know.
I like it, and I think that this is an anomaly, and I don't think they'll do this, again. But I mean, they might if depending on pandemics and things. But you know what? Shit, we need to see how it plays out. It might be really awesome.
Yeah,
because in a way, like 24 teams make it into this play down tournament. It's a tournament is what it is. And that's pretty cool. And I've been for years saying they should do like like tournaments for stuff, you know? And the playoffs are the playoffs, and I get it, and it's different. But basketball is going to have to do something like this, and baseball doesn't know what the fuck they're going to do. And I think it's cool, and I think that we don't know how it's going to play out, but it could be amazing. And I think it's really cool that they're going to pick like what 3 or 4 cities.
Oh, like
and those are going to be
yeah.
hub cities with like 6 teams, 4 cities, 6 teams. I think that's what it is, something like that. And
I've heard Vegas is like probably the for sure place right now, just because it's going to be like, most hotels and most accommodations, and
I don't think they were on the
restaurants.
finals list. I think
Oh, okay.
maybe they were.
I thought that's from the get go. People were like, I guess because you hear Toronto so much, and then they kind of got ruled out because players don't want to quarantine and come back into Canada, so everyone wants us to leave and not have to come back in and leave their.
Toronto's on the list. There was 3 Canadian cities on the final 6 list. 6 list.
Yeah,
the final 6.
I just heard that like it sounds like the players don't want to come to Canada for that, like because of the like the rule here is if you come in internationally, you have to quarantine for 14 days. So it creates like a whole different thing. So they're almost like want to go to places like Florida or states that have less social distancing kind of like requirements.
Well, they've released the hub cities for the final, like they've narrowed it down to 6 cities, I think 6 or 8, and like Toronto, Edmonton, and I think Vancouver were the ones on the list for Canada, and then Pittsburgh and some of the others. I think Minnesota might have been on that list, but it definitely isn't going to be on it now.
Oh no, Minnesota! What'd you do that for?
I think it was on the list, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's like they're like Minnesota. Not much is happening there. Not too much
going on in Minnesota.
There's no civil unrest going on in Minnesota. It's a very safe. They love hockey in Minnesota too, which not too bad what's happening. Obviously,
you know what though? I guess at the end of the day, the hockey players. I mean, I guess they'll go to Minnesota because they're all white guys. So I mean, they're not. They're probably whatever. I mean, that just says like the NHL is mainly a white guy sport, right?
Yeah, it's like the last one, other than golf, I guess, or like if the major
that's
sports.
true. Golf's golf's got other people in it. Like, does that count? Like,
I mean, I guess hockey has other people. We have like a few people of color, obviously in different nationalities. Even someone like you can say
in the
even
minors, like coming up, for sure. You get mixed, like amateur hockey all over, right? Depending on where you go. But like, when I was coming up, there was a few, other nationalities, but I guess it was like neighborhoods that you grow up in. I don't know. But you're right. There's not a whole lot that make it. Like, there's like a handful that make
it. Hockey is like what? Like it's got to be like a 90% white guy. It's kind of crazy because also there's all this stuff in hockey too of obviously stuff came out last year with a lot of like coaches and players and different other stuff just being like really eye-opening about like the experiences of people who are minorities, because it's like got to be imagine so hard in that case because like you get treated like like you get so much differently for what you were like, and then like you have to kind of like listen to your coach and your team, and you can't be that person who talks out because it's like the code of hockey, and now it's just like kind of blew up.
See, I don't know. I don't like. I look at like if you're the best player in hockey, you just take the like tryouts, right? Like you go and coach. Like that's the thing. Like when you're a kid, sometimes coaches don't like. It's almost like you want it to be like the Masked Singer, like you don't know who's under the equipment, like just let them play, and if they're that good, you select them to come to for the team. And then if, it doesn't matter what race is, right? But as long as you're just picking the best players, and that's how it was when I was growing up, is you went to tryouts and, the best players made the team. And if You know, you weren't good enough. You didn't make it. Baseball, you know, I played there. I didn't even look at it like, you know, nobody, I think, like, well, nobody where I come from or whatever, like, looked at it like that. It's like we had all different types of people on the team, and you know what I mean? It was just who can hit, who can throw, who can, you know, and that's what it was.
Yeah,
It
I
wasn't
just think it was
anything
more of
about,
the it
you
wasn't like
know,
people in this case like it came out like it wasn't like that people like weren't given the shot to play. I think it's more or less they're saying it's you'd be like surprised the stuff that we were treated like just because you're kind of in a situation where you want to keep your job as a pro hockey player or fit in with your team, and you could have people who are part of that kind of mess of being like systemically, you know, like racist towards you, and they just, you know, they treat it like as it's like a normal thing, you know. So
I think for sure, and I think that there probably is that going on there because you know what? I think that when you get into like, I don't think there's a lot of that. Well, there could be because a lot of these players come from a lot like a diverse range of areas, right? Like you can get guys from Toronto that grew up in the melting pot, a multicultural, diverse area, Chicago, you know, Detroit, New York, like a lot of these guys coming up, you know, in an environment where they're probably raised in you know, accepting and being equal with everybody, right? And it's just life, like everybody's equal and the same, and you know, you grow up, it's nothing, it's, you know. But there's also people, especially like I'd say in mainly like NHL and probably MLB, where like some of these guys come from like butt fuck nowhere.
mhm.
You know what I mean? Like a small town in Saskatchewan where there's probably zero diversity for 300 miles. You know, like,
Is that where Mike
so
Babcock's from?
I don't know where he's from.
He's from Saskatchewan somewhere. I just thought.
Yeah, well,
Well, that's the whole thing. Remember, like the idea of like, I didn't realize how I always heard that Bobby Orr was from Parry Sound. But I never knew how like small Parry Sound was, and it's like not so far up north, but it's out of the way. And then
it's far
it's just like,
enough.
but it's like far enough away that like back then they were just like, hey, we heard there's a kid up here playing really good, and they gotta send someone to the middle of nowhere. They're like, oh, this is gonna be a shit assignment, and they like see this kid who's like amazing, but like, what are the chances, right? Out of this small town and like even the people hearing it and, you know, figuring it out, right?
I think that, yeah, well, like Perry Sound, I think that like you, like I said, man, when you get out to like Manitoba, uh, Alberta, Saskatchewan, you know, even in BC, well, not so much BC, but like those other places, like you'll get like like random town, like cities, places that are like I don't know, man, like Red Deer, Alberta. Is that near anything?
I don't know. I'm gonna say you know where it is. It's somewhere in between Edmonton and Calgary. That's my fake geography.
But it's like one of those scenarios where it's like, yeah, some of these places are not really kind of, you know, like population is going to be small, and maybe it's a mill town or a mining town, you know, and that's, or a lumber town, or, you know, like, I don't know. It's just, that's where they're this kid's at, and somebody's got to go and
Well, Red Deer
see
has
what's going on, you
Red
know?
Deer has like the junior team, the Rebels. I know that.
Right, but junior teams are everywhere. Like you've got like, that doesn't say a lot
Oh,
about, you know,
Murray.
populate.
I don't mean to brag right now. Sorry, but you know how I said that I think it's somewhere between Calgary and Edmonton.
Are you right?
I'm right. It's like directly in between, like north. It's like if you're going north,
Well, you'll have to put that on the graphics.
it's like impressive how well I took that from my like kind of like ish knowledge of geography. There we go.
Well, very good, man. Very good. You could have told me it was 3 hours north of wherever, and I would have went, oh, okay. I'd have to look it up.
It's
I'd
about a
have to
half
look it
hour
up.
drive from Moosonee. You gotta turn on Silver Lake, and then you're not too far away.
Yeah. So, anyways, So that's a lot of hockey talk. I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad to. I hope they come back. I mean, it's going to be weird, right? Like we're going to have
Mhm.
hockey in August,
Well, that was the thing. I was like,
July and August, middle of the summer. We're going to have hockey.
yeah, the thing I think, or you're saying like the idea of like how it's changing and it might just stay that way. And I kind of read somewhere like, because we mentioned this once or twice before about how like state of the art arenas now, like you can have ice all year, right? There's no
Yep,
real limitations. It's kind of like shitty a little bit, but like you can, with the right amount of like effort, you can make it fine.
a
So
little
the
bit of
idea was
love,
like,
little bit of love. Love the ice.
so the
Love the
idea was
ice.
like, yeah, keep the ice going. Um, so the idea I heard was like the NHL might like this like idea of starting like even starting the season later, like in November, so they don't overlap with like football and like all the other stuff in baseball, you know, because like no one's watching hockey in October because of baseball, and then football comes in, and then so like they were like, yeah, how like this would almost be good for us if we started our season late because it's winter, and then we can go into July, and then
The one thing.
they kind of like corner the market like as long as like as possible of like when people will have be able to watch the sport and not be in competition with other sports.
The
So
problem is that you start to get into summer activities, and there are summer sports that people start to get into that take them away from hockey. And like the one thing that the NHL has always had is they're about 2 or 3 weeks ahead of the NBA every year. Like that's they start ahead of them, and people are ready. Like people are like, if you're a hockey fan in like a major hockey city, you're ready for hockey. Like
mhm.
people are rabid for that to come back. And like, yeah, the seasons are long. Like, I mean, I don't understand how. Answer this for me, Kirk. And basketball's the same. These okay, they play 82 games, and the season starts in basically October, right? And the season ends what, the end of March, first week in April.
Yeah.
Like basically first week in April, end of March. Like that's basically the accepted times of the end of the hockey season. Basketball generally finishes like a week or two after.
The Leafs generally
Um,
play the Canadians on the 3rd or 4th of April. That's what it seems like most years, you know. That's the
so
last game.
but so it starts in October, and I know like there's a couple of, like there's a shutdown for Christmas for like a day or a week now or a few days, and All-Star break is like 3 days or 4 days. Why do they have like all this time, and then all of a sudden you'll have like I'll look at the paper or I'll look at the stats and I'll go, they've got to play like 18 games in like the next 30 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's just game back to back, 2 days off. Get like they're playing three. They're playing on like a Tuesday and like a fucking like or a they're playing back to back nights, and then they got a Saturday game, and it's 3 nights a week that
Yeah.
rolls. So it's like 6 nights and 6 games and 10 nights and shit, or 12 nights. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, what is this? This is the season is 6 months long.
Yeah. No, that's the Leafs have that problem I noticed this year.
Why?
They're
But
playing a lot
why
of
are
back
they
to
doing
backs.
this? But why? Like, I don't. I
It's
understand some of
I
it's
think it has
travel and
I think it has to be like because so many arenas are multi-complex that like they must be trying to like figure out
no,
like all the I mean no sorry like you know how like the Leafs play where the Raptors
no,
play and like I'm sure
no,
like okay.
no. Well, it depends. Yes. Okay. You know what? You fuck. Maybe you're
Oh, and
right, man.
the other thing too is I've heard that like because a lot of them are also concert venues, so they like get kind of like into these like I don't know how to explain it, but like it sounds like
Toronto
it sounds
is
like
number one. And that's the deal for like a lot of these clubs is that like NBA, if they're sharing like the Leafs and the Raptors, they share an arena. Which one do you think gets first pick?
I mean now maybe the Raptors I make them more
The
money.
Leafs. So the Leafs
Yeah.
get the first date. So like the NHL puts out their schedule and the Leafs hold all dates, and then boom, once that's known, then
Mhm.
the other dates open up, and then the Raptors, and then everything comes after them. So if there's a concert, it's third, or whatever else, right?
Well, I just
So
mean, I guess
if
maybe
the
there's a
other
bigger
teams
picture.
also have, there must be, and I don't know what it is, because I don't understand why the end of the season has so many teams cranking games out in February, March,
Yeah.
when you have October, November, like you have all these fucking other months. And it seems like where it's like two games, or like, oh, they play on a Tuesday and then they play on the Saturday.
Yeah, because
Okay.
also like it's
Well, why not a
weird.
Thursday game? How about you throw a Thursday in there?
Yeah, it's weird too because I know I guess with the Leafs this year, I noticed a lot of back-to-backs in that scenario at the beginning of the year, and then it was like they were getting fucked over because the way they had to like play the, like Friday, Saturday nights, and it was like, and then they weren't, always at like always sort of seemed like they were disadvantaged by that, but they were trying to get through it. Basically, that's why Babcock got fired because he kept losing back-to-backs, and then but it's
Well, they
also
won.
like.
Yeah, they were rough, right? They lost what, 12 out of 14.
Yeah, but then it was like strange because like they have like a bye week and there's the All-Star week and there's like, there's all this like there's time eventually. It just seemed like look at the whole season, you're like, I don't think the team has as much input as they probably could into how the schedule gets made. Because otherwise the Leafs, you think being the team they are, would have more influence. So it seems like they just get, shoved to schedule and have to deal with it.
Well, it's not just them. It's like there's other teams that like it's the same shit. I think it's like the whole fucking league. But like you'll
Yeah.
see like some teams, they'll be like 8 games ahead. Like 6 to 8 games played ahead of these teams. And I'm like, okay, well, they're kind of on pace. And then their last month and a half or last month is more reasonable. Like, you know what I mean? It's like a normal schedule where these other teams are cranking them in and double headers and 3 games in a week and 6 games in 12 nights. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, why? Why is this happening? And then people, oh, the season, like, they're like, is it that there's too many, and basketball's guilty of it too. So is there too many games? Should there be less games? Should the season be longer? Should we
No,
get
no.
less games? Because then people would say, well, the season doesn't need to be as long, right? But it does, like, to be fair. But I don't see hockey and basketball. Like basketball, you could run into summer because people play basketball in the summer, you know? But hockey, I think you'll lose people. Like it's I think it's tough. People start to like drift. Like if you were playing like meaning like playoff, like not playoff games, but regular season games in May.
Yeah. I think this year will be a big deal, but they can't take it as like just because it was popular this summer to watch hockey in like August that it's people are going to want to see that again. But
But there's going to be competition. If they come back, if everybody comes back at the same time, you're going to have NHL, NBA, and baseball all back. So it might be really good because people are going to be like starved. They're going to say, "Oh my God, what's happening tonight? I can watch everything. There's 3 sports on. This is amazing." But there's only so long you can maintain that appetite, right? Eventually, you're going to burn out, and people are going to go, "Okay, well, it's too much." And then the NFL is going to start training camp, and the Americans are nuts. So, people like I don't know anybody who gets all rabid about preseason the way they do about NFL preseason games. I don't get it, but
well, you got to get out there and support the team. You got tailgate.
the Bears.
You got to buy the new third jersey and go from there.
I'd like to see it come back. I'm with you.
Because I think I watched so much hockey this year just because like that was my thing. Was like because it's at least on 2-3 times a week and wasn't working very many nights this year. So like yeah, most times I got to watch the games and like it was something I look forward to putting on. Like I kind of get bored with other stuff, but like hockey's something I think like especially now with the Leafs, like they were kind of a little bit weird this year, but like I never really lost faith. I still like watching. It's my team. I'm gonna watch.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Like, I we'll see where it goes. I think golf's supposed to be coming back. NASCAR's back. I think that there's certain sports that you can do: tennis,
Dog racing.
golf, NASCAR. Well, these are like a lot of this. Like people aren't with people. Like there's some you can observe distancing, no fans in attendance. And if you're doing things the right way, it's probably as safe as you're gonna get right now in this climate. And
It's fun to get back to betting on stuff.
and then fuck, I gotta get to the casino.
I want to start betting on some dog racing. They're just little horses.
Yeah, man. I'm pretty soon we're gonna have amateur dog racing at dog parks. People just gathering around on the outside of the fencing, and just kind of make your own kind of thing going on. A cube van will pull up, the door will open, the board will come out.
Yeah. Just had a weird thought of like, oh, if you were like so starved to do some street gambling that you were like watching like a live feed of a guy playing 3-card money and you could bet on him.
Yeah, man. Like, there's got to be. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm ready for some wagering, and some people need things, outlets, and right now people don't have any of it. It's. I wonder if everybody's baking.
I kind of bake, but I kind of don't. Does that make sense? Like, I had this recipe for a non-bake like energy bites. So they're just like peanut butter and oats and like protein powder, and you roll them up, but you don't have to bake them because there's nothing to bake. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's not fun at all.
I mean, it's a little fun.
Oh,
like they're fun to eat. They're fun to eat. Put a little honey in there, and good. But I'm not one of those losers. No, I'm sorry, that's the wrong direction. People who use things they put in the oven, eggs and flour. Yeah, you can go fuck yourself. No, I was kidding.
They make the delicious stuff, buddy.
Yeah.
So what else is going on? So we talked about some sports. We talked about there's some stuff going on.
So me personally, I actually decided to move. That's a thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's an interesting decision. I mean, I guess right now everything's not really happening in cities. So like, I mean, if you're not up to anything,
Yeah. I mean, like it's
because you're gonna move back to your hometown for a little bit, right?
Yeah, because there's no COVID there, and that's not really my main concern. But I guess my concern kind of became like I was.
You can take it there.
I could take it there. My mom won't let me. My mom's gonna make me sleep in a tent for 14 days and then see how it goes. No, but for me it was more like, oh yeah, like I can't really do like my comedy stuff because like crowds are not a thing anymore, and then online stuff I don't really know what to do with that. But I've been making music and I've been putting out like some still some podcasts and other stuff that I'm like I don't really necessarily have to be here. Cause my thing was worrying about the long term if this keeps going and my other job stuff doesn't come back, then I'm kind of like, well, I'm stuck paying being here, and then I'm looking at going like my mom's house,
right? But like
easy for me to go back to, and then I can like save money and then come back when I feel like I'm good,
Well, yeah, because work market, the industry has shut down. You know what I mean? There's not a lot going on, like you said, crowds. Live venues are done right now. So I mean, but the thing is, if this if it opens and then it goes back to like quarantine, and it opens and we go back to quarantine, I mean, you're in a big city now. I mean, you're going to be in a smaller place. You're going to move out of town for back home for a while. I mean, if things go real sideways, what's the what's the male escort situation down in the small town you're from? Can you make the same kind of money there that you can make here?
I might have to go full cam model, like flip my script of liking to look at cam models to becoming one. That might.
I got
I
to
don't know.
imagine that's got to be a weird situation. Like, I don't think like people are watching guys for the
Mhm.
same reasons like guys are watching girls. I think they're probably watching guys to like smush like raspberries in their belly button, or like
Yeah.
you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, for
Like,
sure. No, there's some weird stuff happening.
right?
It's like you want me to put what in what? Like that kind of shit.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So yeah, I'd like to do my best to stay away from that, but I mean, there's always the I mean, we're a border town, so I mean, if women don't really want me to be a whore there, I could always whore around the Michigan side. Maybe they're looking for
Can't
some.
cross the border.
Here's my thing: I can get a dinghy and go over by night and kind of like go back and forth that way. It's a dangerous life to live, but I think they'd appreciate a young, strapping Canadian boy. It would kind of maybe make them feel young again. So I mean, I think that's where my opportunity lies, and if that's yeah,
Make them feel young again, so you'll whore yourself to older ladies.
yeah. I mean, like I just figured they'll just like seeing me, this nice Canadian boy, will make them think of gentler, nicer times. So I'll be
Mm,
like I'll be like a time machine, like take you where you want to go.
power of love, buddy. Power of love.
Oh, it's not love. It's
No, you said time machine, Back to the Future. Get it?
oh, I get it now because of the
Get it?
Marty lies.
There you
You know,
go. There you
do you know what
go.
I watched the other day? It was really good. It was the I hadn't watched in a long time. Back to the Future Part 3. I watched that and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, good for you. You know what? It's funny, man. Like the first, like I was young-ish. Like I was too young to respect any of those movies, I guess. Like, the first one awesome. The second one, because of like the futuristic stuff, was cool to me when I was like a 10-year-old or whatever, or younger, 9. The third one though, I remember, man, I saw it and like I was a little disappointed with it, like when it first came out. Maybe because it was a Western and I didn't really care much about Westerns. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think I felt the same. Like I like kind of look back on it. The reason I hadn't revisited it was that I was like in my mind, oh, like that's the one that's kind of like I don't know what the word. It's like I was like it's like hokey.
I didn't find it hokey. I found it like, I guess coming up, like, I mean, it came out in 91, 90, 91. Anyways, I was like 10. And like to me, boring movies and boring TV shows, because in that time period, there was still a lot of Westerns, like older TV shows on reruns on TV, and like old Western movies were always on like fucking random channels. Like you're watching, like you'd be like, oh, like maybe my parents would watch them. Like, I don't know. Like, it just, to me, the Western wasn't exciting. Like, it was like a boring, like, oh, great. And then Back to the Future 3 came out, and I don't know. I don't think it got me. Like, I think I expected, maybe it was the future stuff. Like, I wanted more of that and more,
Mm-hmm.
DeLorean. Like, there was no DeLorean. There was no technology, like, really,
Except
which
for
is
the
weird
the
because
train.
well, you know what though? Right. But back then I didn't appreciate it, you
Yeah.
know?
I just
And
don't understand the train thing as much. Do you know what I mean? Like, because he takes the train back to the future, right? Marty does in the DeLorean because it's not moving. But then Doc Brown comes back within a similar time frame. He's already made another time machine out of that train. I just don't understand.
no, not the same similar. His kids are like 7.
They that old? So he was still like you think like even being in the past where he was, he'd still be restricted to make another
Well, that's an
thing.
assumption made by you.
I guess so. I mean, I'm trying to apply like logical science
I
here.
like the fact that they had kids that were like, like, I don't know, he had like a 4-year-old and like a 7-year-old. And I was like, you know what? I appreciate the fact that, yes, he had this steam locomotive.
But then he could have been like, "Hey, Marty, I got a plan to make this in a few years. So if you can actually just hang out for a bit, we don't need to do this daring escape. You could just chill out in the Old West and then."
He didn't have a plan.
What?
He didn't have a plan. And the reason that the rush was on for them to get out of there was because he was going to get murdered.
But he didn't get murdered. He embarrassed the one guy. He actually
right, but he didn't get murdered because Marty was going to get murdered, and then so the race was on to get them both out of there. But then Marty fought him and won. But at that point, the DeLorean was already mounted on the fucking tracks.
Yeah,
like it's a go. Like they're ready to rock.
I'm just saying, at that point there was really no danger. So that's why I was thinking now, like that train thing just makes no sense to me. Like the look.
Well, no, yeah. Well, you're already ready to go. Like what? So there was no guarantee that they didn't know how they were going to get back. Like they couldn't stay. Marty didn't want to stay there. So you eventually got to do something. So
I guess also the whole thing with Back to the Future is it's supposed to take place in a specific time frame that Marty has. Because Marty just can't wait like 5 years and then he's 5 years older and goes back to that time where he left before. It's all this stuff. All the movies are always essentially happening in a couple of days. Right?
That's right. He keeps going back to the same 3 week. It's all in like a week or 3 days. Yeah. You're right. It's like 2 days, 3 days.
It actually is kind of maybe that's why they do that. There isn't really a specific reason for that other than I think just like having to like get back in sync with where he left. So if he extended his time, then it's never gonna fully sync up correctly, I guess.
Well, he'd be missing.
Yeah.
Like if he doesn't go back to that time period when he left or close to then he would be missing. His family would wonder where the hell he is. Right? Because he spent a fair bit of time in the first one.
Well, he had a shitty family at the beginning of the first one, so they probably wouldn't care where he was. But then they became a nice family in between, whereas they might actually care where he went.
I think they'd notice, and he had a girlfriend; she would notice.
Oh yeah.
So and
he had to wake. He actually had to wake her up in the third one because she was asleep on her porch in the second one
because Doc knocked her out.
Yeah, they left her there, but she wouldn't have been woken up unless someone came and woke her up. Or I guess
I think she would have woke up eventually, but he went back, not too long in the morning or whatever. The next she had to sleep. Mm-hmm. Anyways, Back to the Future 3. I like the fact that they left the dock there, and then and I appreciate that movie much more now. You said you just watched it the other day. I saw half of it maybe a month ago, the last half. It's entertaining to me now. You know what? I watch it. Maybe it's a nostalgia factor, and I'm like, you know what? I like it. It's good.
I think it runs really well with the second one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seemed because it immediately tied. Like the first one is self-contained.
Yeah.
And then the very end, there's a stinger. There's that little bit where he comes back and he's like, "It's your kids," and then off they go, and it leads into yes, we could, we're gonna make another, or it does lead into the next one, but they could have done anything for the second movie and they would have been fine. The third one, they specifically had him go back to the Wild West, and then Marty found out about it.
Yeah, well, that was because that's how they tied the end of the second one with that, where he gets the letter saying "I am in the 1800s, Marty," which is really a cool scene. I think what's his name, Joe Flaherty is the guy.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
It's that scene. Where it's in the rain and it just seems tense, and then I don't know, but that's something about that scene. That kind of makes me think, going that seems like something really interesting, that idea, or that's even how it looks,
Yeah, it was great. Because it was they're there, it's raining, it's just a lightning storm. The DeLorean and Doc disappear, and then Marty only has a second to process it, and then immediately there's headlights coming at him, and it's Western Union. delivering a letter that they've had for like how long?
Yeah, he's like, I don't
60
know.
years?
Well, the guy said that this used to be my boss that passed this letter down to me, didn't he? Something like that. Like it wasn't like he was obviously not the original
He
person.
said it's been
Except
in our possession for like 70 years or something.
yeah, and he
And
never thought that
we,
someone would get it.
yeah, under specific instructions on this date and this exact time for a Marty.
Yeah,
Anyways, it's a great movie. And
I think
you know what's weird though? I think that, so like I said, I didn't give Westerns any respect at all.
you never
And
saw a John Wayne movie.
I wouldn't have respected it. And I remember being young, maybe 92, and in around whatever year that was, 91, 92, 93, somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly which year, but I remember going to the movie theater with a buddy of mine and it was like a couple of parents and a couple buddies, and it was off one of my old little baseball teams, and I think we might have been at a tournament somewhere, and we all went to a movie, and we all got in because back then you could get into any movie you wanted to go to as long as you're with your parent, and we saw Unforgiven.
Oh, yeah,
you remember that, Clint Eastwood?
yeah. I know of the movie. Isn't it Val Kilmer in that as well? That's Tombstone. I'm thinking of.
No, that's Tombstone. No,
So then, Unforgiven, I'm probably haven't seen then. No.
Oh, that's a fantastic movie. So like I remember, maybe because I was young and I was amazed with like the violence in it. Great Western. So like I think after that I was much more open to it, and then you just named a fantastic movie, Tombstone. That movie is fantastic. So I think that like I gained a respect for some Westerns.
Yeah, I remember the first movie I ever saw with like a group of friends that I probably shouldn't have seen was something about Mary. So it was like the movie I wanted to see on my birthday, and my mom was like, "What movie you want to take you and your friends to go see?" And I just chose that one, but it was like the most like raunchy movie I think I'd ever even seen to that point. It's one of those like movies that were like when we started talking about it, like and making the jokes from the movie, that like other parents started calling my mom, going, "You took them to what? The movie with the cum in the hair?" I don't know.
Yeah. No, I 98 or whatever. I remember going with some friends on like opening weekend, and it was packed. And I remember it was one of those movies that some parts were hilarious. Like the first time you see, you know how it is, right? You go to a movie, and if everybody's in on the movie, if everybody's bought in and you're having a good time, funny parts land, right? Like they're landing and you're laughing and everybody's laughing, and if it's a really funny part, you're dying, and everybody's dying. And I remember that movie had a lot of parts like that for some reason, and I've seen the movie since, and it's funny. Like I still chuckle, but I remember dying laughing when I saw that in the movie theater. Like it was like the funniest thing ever. And maybe it was adolescence.
6-minute abs. 6-minute abs.
Maybe it's
what
my
about
youth, right?
That's stupid. Yeah, that's a good one. I remember just like howling laughing. I remember being really, really funny. And then subsequent times I've seen it as a kid, or even not recently, but then it was still always funny to me. The time I think I killed myself the most in any movie theater was, I think, Borat.
Borat was funny. I remember I saw that in the theater. I sat next to an old lady.
That's fun. What did she think?
It was packed, man. You know what? It was opening night I think it was like opening Friday, and I went with the girl I was dating at the time, and she didn't like it. Like this is stupid. But it was so full, and I remember we had aisle seats, and the lady right next to me was like a fucking grandma, like 70 years old or whatever, white hair, and I sat down and I was like, "Oh, hi." And the movie was on, and I was dying laughing at some of those parts, and I look over. You would figure that me and my girlfriend at the time, we would be like kind of laughing together. It was me and this grandma that were having a great time together. She was loving it.
That's funny.
Oh, it was hilarious. Like she was crying, laughing. I'm turning to her, like we're grabbing each other. Like it was hilarious. The girl I was dating, I was probably pissed off that I was like shunning her for the old lady, but the old lady was enjoying the movie.
Yeah, you should have left with that old lady.
Well, you know, I think her
That's
family that brought her there. You know,
that's a good scene in a movie we could write about. You starting to date an old lady, like someone dates an old lady because they have this connection, like going to a movie together by accident, and then you're like, "Hey, why don't we hang out, old lady?"
that's yeah. Borat. That's funny. There's been so many over the years, right? So many good movies. And well, what about TV? Like, what would you say is the funniest television show consistently for comedy?
I like Seinfeld, but the one that made me laugh the most was probably like even didn't really last that long was Eastbound and Down. The
Yeah, I know.
Eastbound and Down probably like I think like there'd be so many points in that show that I would laugh so goddamn hard, but it's also like a show that's shot and the content isn't really edited like a TV show sitcom, so they just could say fuck, they could say whatever. And there was a scene I laughed.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know how.
HBO, right? Or
Yeah, so like I remember there being a
Stars or so. It was a specialty channel show.
yeah, it was on HBO, but like there was this. I remember being like a scene where like there's like Kenny Powers and his arch nemesis, the guy who hit the home run to end his career. And he gets to like throw a ball at him again, and he's getting nervous about it. And then like these guys such a big asshole back and forth to each other, and then he gets his pitch back, but like he doesn't throw it straight. Like hits the guy in the face and his eye pops out. And instead of it being like a real moment of him being like, "Oh fuck, I almost like killed that guy," he's like, "Yeah, I got my pitch back." It's just like I don't know, that just killed me. I remember I'm like,
Yeah, well, yeah.
like that particular moment is for sure the most like the hardest I've ever laughed at a TV show. So,
but
yeah,
that's a one moment. Like that's and I get it. Like that show had moments of like, you know, a setup and then like motherfucker and then bam, like a payoff later, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had like jokes like in the second season of stuff like where he goes to like, you know, pitch in Mexico, and then there's a scene where you don't really see the audience, but he comes out and it's like a WWE entrance theme with him draped in the American flag, and he's like got fireworks going off, and then when you turn to the crowd, there's like a couple of people and they don't care what he just did. So it's like there's all these like those really good standalone jokes, and it's just like a funny show, but like I don't think it had like say pretty consistent, pretty packed full of jokes, and like you know what you're getting into, I guess. But
yeah, so you would say that because how many episodes per season? Like not that many, right? Like 10?
Yeah, it was like 10, maybe 13. And like I think also it was like an HBO thing where they would just make how many they wanted to make sometimes.
See, yeah, like that's I find that there's an advantage to obviously television today where they're only making 10 or 13 episodes for anything because you can well, I mean, I wouldn't say production was extremely high on that show. I think it was like more of a low budget show, but like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I think it's harder. Like, if I told you, Kirk, I need you to write 13 episodes for this comedy show, you know, whatever, or I need you to write 25 episodes or 26 episodes. I think that's tougher. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think like, yeah, scripted comedy, if you're in like a half hour or any sort of like TV schedule is hard because not only do you have to make your script exactly to the time that you're allowed, because you only have so much freedom. There's like a very small amount of freedom you have to like have your show. So your show can only run so much time, like 22 minutes or like 40 something, right, with an hour. So, and also you have to like in TV, you have to script to act breaks as well as then have like a reason to people to come back in the it's like almost like a little cliffhanger or something to get them engaged to come back after the commercial and do that a couple of times, and then also then like end the show. So there's like, so I guess like with a scripted comedy doing that 22 minutes, but also like you have to have 3 acts on purpose. You can't have like you can't just like choose your own way of doing it. Like you can't be like, yeah, I'm gonna have like this amount of like scene has to go this long. It's like no, it has to be broken down. So like inadvertently, yeah, you're gonna have to like struggle to write, not like the actual content, but to break it down for like that.
Yeah, yeah. There's a little bit of thought that needs to go into it, but I don't know. I find tastes are changing. You know what I mean? Like comedy is still comedy, and I like some of the shows that are out there, and but I don't know, man. You know, there's only like one on, maybe one or two on at any given time that I find to be right up there. You know, like elite comedies. You know what I mean? And I find I catch them late, like after they've been on for like 2-3 years, 4 years, and then I'll be like, "Oh, really? It's that good?" And then I watch it, and it is really good. Like Big Bang Theory. I thought that show was pretty good, and but I didn't catch it until like season 5, 4 or 5. Like I caught it really late, right? And like it's only because a buddy of mine, he was all over it, and he's like, "You should watch this show." And then I did, and yeah, it was not bad. But I don't know. But like rewatch value, like what's a show like you said, Seinfeld. I could just put that show on and watch any episode at any point, and it never gets old.
Yeah, I'd say Seinfeld. I don't know how that has such a longevity, but like
I could literally put it on, and it doesn't matter what episode it is. I'll watch it. I've seen every episode probably like 20 times.
Yeah,
and I'm fine watching it again, and I'll find it funny again.
Well, each Seinfeld doesn't really have. It's almost like it doesn't like even. I heard this described as like even at the time they weren't really going for like a modern people. They're like they all dress kind of weird if you think about it, and like they're not like so they never like were. They always kind of were playing to be like a timeless kind of show in the way they presented it, and also it's like there's no story arc. It's all like here's what's happening in this episode. It's easy, like you can almost describe. It's also like the beauty of it is like you could tell someone. Remember that that episode where Kramer makes calzones, or like
yeah, but that's not the main. But that's not what the description of the episode would be.
Yeah, or even be like
because that's a secondary subplot about. And the calzones is because he goes to the thing to get calzones for Steinbrenner, and he ends up wanting them to cook his jacket.
Yeah, but he's like, that's my thing, and then he's like, no, but I just mean like you can like there's or like some things in that show like or like say like every time there was something with like you could like say a couple of things. You go like anti-dentite or something like that, and you kind of like you flash to what that is. So it's almost like these like ideas of it, and also like some of the ideas like when someone's like says close talker, that still applies today. People talk too close to you, so it's almost like weirdly still relatable. They don't have like there's some stuff where they have like answering machine jokes and stuff like that, but whatever.
Well, it was infused with Seinfeld and Larry David, and then like the other guys who came in, but like their humor, like their comedy, like the little things that Seinfeld, you know what I mean, like his observational comedy or whatever you call him. The show has that, right? Like that, like Close Talker, that's an observational thing. That I think coined that phrase in the show, and it stuck because it's true. Like it put a label on something that everybody has dealt with, but nobody really knew what to call it.
Well, it's like, have you watched Curb? Curb? Do you watch Curb at all? Because that's kind of like, I think Curb is like the extension of like you get pure Larry David, and you see like, I mean, then you can kind of see. I think when you watch it, you see what social things come from him or whatever comes from him is because it's like because Seinfeld's like the observational guy, but like he's not really as bothered as stuff by as everything who's people are really bothered by anything or they're like hung up about something that always seems to be Larry David.
But
Because
that's
he's like,
also a Costanza. Like I love Curb. Curb's a great show. If you look at a lot of what he gets into, like the trouble that he gets into, it's very much similar to what George would be going through.
oh yeah, I mean it's based on him. It's kind of
No,
like
but exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's an extension of Costanza in a way. So like when I watch that show, like I know I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that would have been like that's probably an idea that they, especially the early Curbs, where it was probably like dismissed ideas from the Seinfeld show. You know what I mean? Like be like, oh, okay, cool. You know, but yeah, it's a great show, and I don't know. I don't know why shows like that were so successful. What did you think about Friends?
I liked it when I was younger. Like when it first came on, it was like a phenomenon. It had like the soundtrack and like all this other stuff. But then at some point, like it was on for a while, and then I was just like, I never was interested in watching it because it was all like, to me, it wasn't really funny. Like it was, I don't know, it was funny when I was like in grade 6 and like to like 8 maybe, and then people still watched it. And then it's weird to me that that's a show that kind of still is held on. And I can only think of it like I don't think new people are getting into this. It's not as good as like The Office or
Well,
or
it's relative,
Seinfeld.
right? It's
I don't know. I'm
relative.
just it's not funny like The Office or funny like Seinfeld. And
Well, it depends what
and
kind
then
of humor you like.
I know, but then to me it's like it's that one thing when you go on like a dating site and you can tell the kind of what kind of person you're because it's always like girls are always like you can tell the person who's like I like to travel and my favorite show is Friends and I'm like clicking away from this.
See, and I can tell you right now, like, because I wouldn't say that. Like, I love The Office. It's a great show. I just rewatched all of it like not that long ago, and then I powered through Parks and Rec. But The Office and Friends are different types of comedy, right? Like it's a totally different thing. Also, different eras of comedy. Like you can't compare. Like Friends came on in '94. I was in grade 9, so I was encapsulated or grabbed into the first, I'd say 5 seasons. I would say I watched it for the first 5 years dedicated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
You know, maybe
I
even
remember.
maybe even 6. But after that, and once they started to get more into their interpersonal relationships, and you know, the last 2-3 seasons of the show, I wasn't into it. Like I saw it, like don't get me wrong, I ended up watching it all, but I wasn't like, I had friends that were like, Friends is on, I'm not coming out until it's over, and they're like, that's the thing, right? And I'm like, all right, well, fuck it. Like, you know, I tuned it out. Either I might have been more busy, or the show evolved into something else that I wasn't associated. Like we no longer had anything in common, and the comedy changed for a little bit later in the seasons. And then when The Office came out, I was older and I could understand it. You know what I mean?
I think yeah, definitely you're right. It's a different sort of style of show, and it was maybe indicative of the time because that's kind of like what sitcoms were in the '90s, right? Was like a bunch of friends in the city living together, running into getting into all sorts of hijinks, right?
Well, Friends
As
ended, and then you had How I Met Your Mother, which was the Friends replacement. Like it
yeah,
literally, Friends ended and How I Met Your Mother started. And a lot of people, it's like, that's another show. It was on for multi years before I even realized it existed, and then I got into it and I watched a whole bunch of it, and then I don't even think I finished it. Like same kind of scenario happened where I, stuck with it for, back cataloged it and stuck with it for like, a bunch of seasons, 6-7 seasons or whatever, and then tapped out.
yeah. I guess I could say like if I had to describe why they don't connect with me is that like I couldn't, even though I watched probably a decent amount of Friends and a decent amount of How I Met Your Mother, those sort of shows, or Big Bang Theory, these sorts of types of shows, to me, like they don't really have stories or things I could tell you about. So it's almost doesn't connect with me because I can't like recall it, and there isn't anything really like. It's almost like I think like certain senses you remind yourself that you like saw this or did that, and then so something about these aren't connecting just because there's not is like making me reminded other than that. So it's, to me it's like a blur, which isn't standing out. Whereas like I guess I gotta say to me like the way the Office is written, even though it's in the same office every time, or Seinfeld in the same normally in the same places all the time, I can at least recall the differences between that. Someone can say, "Do you remember that office where Ryan started the fire?" And I'm like, "Ryan started the fire." Whereas you could say anything about any of those other shows, and I wouldn't be able to recall it with like such way.
Well, it says a lot too about like what comedy people like to digest, right? Like The Office is based all in like those characters and what happens in that office, right? Like that's the plot, like that's what it is. There's very little external influences until later on, where Friends or How I Met Your Mother, shows like that, it's similar. Like, yeah, you have like set pieces and whatever, but they're doing more. Like individually, they're all kind of doing stuff, and then they come together, and it's a thing, right? But like, I would say Friends has a lot of, not as much as Seinfeld, and The Office has a ton, but I would say Friends has a fair number of, I wouldn't say social, like not like Seinfeld where like we're gonna quote it, for years to come. But there's like episodes where I'm like, oh okay, yeah, I remember that. Like, yeah, and I still would like would get it, like, or
I
understand
know.
it, like
I
when
know the
Ross wore the tight leather pants, and
I,
they
I know the one when people say when you're moving something and someone says pivot a bunch, it's because of Friends.
yeah, or like you got to have your stretchy pants on for Thanksgiving, things
Well,
like that.
I don't know that one, but I've heard that in my family. I didn't. I just assumed they were fat.
It's a Joey thing, but yeah, I get it. And don't get me wrong, The Office is incredible, and it's an interesting show, and I miss it, and I wish that Steve Carell never left it, and would be more open to a
He's
reunion.
on Space Force now, so he's not coming back. He's going to space.
I watched it, and I like it.
I didn't. I saw the preview on Netflix today because I watched two comedy specials. I watched Tom Segura, Ball Hog. I finished that because I had not finished it, and then the other one was I started watching Patton Oswalt's new special.
I haven't seen those. I haven't seen those yet. I have been watching other stuff, and I did watch the Space Force, which I recommend you check out. And I did watch the Seinfeld, which I know you have not watched yet.
Oh, the 23 Hours to Kill.
Yeah, is a most recent stand-up special.
I, s- I mean, I kind of heard people kind of make fun of it, but like it was kind of like they're like someone was like, yeah, that name. That's it's like all the names you could choose for a comedy special. I guess it doesn't really matter what Jerry Seinfeld at this point chooses his special's name. Like people are still probably gonna watch it. It's Jerry Seinfeld, but if you're like a new comic, you'd probably pick something more catchier than 23 Hours to Kill.
Well, that's the thing though. A new comic has to think about a whole whack of things, right? Like
Do you want to know mine?
momentum and fans and how am I going to survive to the next one? And I need, I want a show, I want a special. My live gigs got to keep going. Well, what's yours?
Oh, sorry, yeah. So mine is my comedy special title. First one comes out next year. Netflix is called Kirk Hicks, Too Fat to Fail.
All right.
It's pretty good, right? So that means I still have to be kind of fat, I think, by the time I film it. Because if I'm like not fat, then they're gonna be like, "What's going on, buddy? You're not fat now?" So yeah,
I think mine would be called "I Dated Her First."
Dibs.
I dated her first, but yeah, I don't know, man. So like when I see like somebody like that, he doesn't care. Like it doesn't matter anymore. Like he even talks about it doesn't matter. Like he said that's probably it for him as well. Like that special is probably his last one. Like televised. He'll still do comedy, like live shows and things, but he says like,
Yeah. Well, this whole
I'm
like
done. I have nothing else to do. Like, why keep doing this? Like,
well, his thing with specials too is like it goes against his whole mantra anyway. Like he was really confused. Like I think it was 10 years ago, I watched this thing on HBO called Talking Funny, where it was Chris Rock, Ricky Gervais, Jerry Seinfeld, Louis C.K. They're all talking about like the current state of comedy. And when Louis C.K. was saying like, yeah, I have a new special come out roughly every year, and Seinfeld's like, what? You do what? Like, what's wrong with you? Like the whole thing with being a comedian to him was like, you have an act and you keep doing that act, and slowly over time you kind of pull things out of it that aren't working, and then maybe put some new things in to freshen it up. But it's an act, it's meant to be kind of like held on to. And so I think like him doing comedy specials is kind of like anti Seinfeld, because he is someone particularly who just has an act and does the act. He's not someone who refreshes every year or every so many years. So that's
yeah,
basically
he's
what I.
got jokes that he can go to for forever, right? But he does, he does modify his act with modern or new observational comedy, which is what he does. Which some of it is quite good, and then others is like, oh, okay. But I will say he is getting older, and some of it, yeah, it's a rich white guy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I keep
his
thinking of.
plights are rich white guy problems with a family now, and he acknowledges that. Like that's one thing about him is he knows where he is in life, right?
Yeah. I assume his act is like like in a joking way, like is similar to. Have you ever watched in 30 Rock? Tracy Morgan's character is basically Tracy Jordan, who's like a famous comedian,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he's like he's rich and out of touch. So like once in a while on the show, they'll have a joke where he's like at a comedy club, and he's like, "How's it going, everybody in here? I'm just trying to be a regular guy," and then something like that. And he's like, "Do you ever notice that like when you eat lobster, like you're like some people from Connecticut eat it like num 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 num, and then like people from like somewhere else are going num 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 num." He's like, "That's crazy, right?" Or
Exactly.
he had a guy who was like he was fixing his he's trying to relate to some guy who was fixing something, and he's like, "Yo man, did you ever lose the remote?" And the guy's like, "Oh yeah," and he's like, to your ceiling." Like that kind of stuff is just really funny. He's like he's just totally oblivious to how the touch he's being, but it's good.
I think everybody's a little different. Like, but at a certain point, a lot of these guys they don't need to care anymore. Like, he doesn't have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, he signed a contract. Netflix backed a truckload of money up to him to say do 2 specials for us, right? Um, so he did, and it's like now he's done, and
And
he
I
didn't
guess
need the money. Like, it's not
comedians in
that he
cars, I think,
needed the
ended
money.
as well. Yeah. No, for sure he doesn't. But like I think at some point it's hard to like say no. They
I
keep.
think Comedians in Cars was just him trying to do something like, hey, that was like a little pet project, right?
Yeah,
And
originally
then
it was on what the fuck's that streaming?
Crackle.
Crackle, and then I think like for some reason it kind of got like it was like the biggest thing on Crackle, right? Because there was no other like original stuff, and then he sold that to
Well, it was
Netflix as part
Seinfeld,
of.
right?
Oh no, I'm just saying like he was doing it like it was like a web series basically. It wasn't like a
I know I watched
wasn't
it when
like
it was on the
for him
web.
it was for him it was I don't think it was about making any money from that. It was just like, hey, I want to have conversations with other comedians and people I like find interesting. And then obviously then at some point he gets getting paid good money to do that on top of getting like a deal for whatever. So I almost wonder if like Netflix just threw in the specials as like a way to purchase that show. Like it's
Yeah,
probably
maybe.
I bet that show means more to him than those specials, if anything, right? Because it's like I can tell that like he's like not like he's too out of touch, but I think he's just someone who relates best to other famous comedians.
Well, it's not. See, here's what like I had a conversation about him with somebody else, and because he's 66 years old or whatever, like 66, like he's getting up there.
It's pretty. He's like, yeah, that's right.
And he admits like I'm 66, technology, whatever, like but he's up on phones, and he's got kids that are now like he's like a normal older white guy. And he knows that, but he's not trying to get a 25-year-old millennial to watch him. Like he's not doing that. Like he's not trying to be what that person needs to laugh. He's doing his show for people who liked his show and have followed him through his career. That's his audience. He doesn't care if you like if somebody thinks he's out of touch, then he doesn't need you. Like okay, but the person that's sitting there that watched me in 1998, they probably feel the same way that I feel about this situation or that, and have noticed this. So that's who it's for, right?
Yeah,
and
I would also
I would also
say nothing against Seinfeld, but like the fact that he had that show and it lives on, and then his name has always been tossed around with like the greatest of all time, and it's not necessarily warranted that he's the greatest of all time.
Well,
he's not. He's not
somebody who's not a comedian. And I'm straight entertainment.
Nowhere near George Carlin. Nowhere near those like the top rung of guys. He's second.
In what though? For what?
In terms of being a comedian, he gets tied into being really famous for being.
But he's not famous for just for just comedian. Like, well, he is now.
No, I'm just saying that like his status of being a great comedian is inherently tied to his show being one of the greatest shows, comedy shows of all time, and so. It's like I know people will be like the worst parts of Seinfeld sometimes are like watching his comedy bits, and I'm like, yeah, some of them don't hold up, but like I'm just saying, no, he's bad. I'm just not saying he's the best, and that's what I think. Every time people go into seeing Jerry Seinfeld as a comedian, they don't know exactly what they're getting because the overall hype on him is that he is the greatest of all time. It's like on the Mount Rushmore of comedians, he's supposed to be up there. And then if he didn't have Seinfeld as a show, I don't think that's typically something people would say.
Well, that's like saying if Wayne Gretzky didn't get drafted, or if the NHL never bought the WHA, well, he wouldn't be the greatest hockey player of all time because he wouldn't have played in the NHL.
I don't know. I think he'd find a way probably in there.
Well, maybe. But like I've seen, so like his show was on, and then I saw I don't know, like one of his specials years ago, like 20 years ago. I laughed. Some of it was jokes from the show. Some of it I hadn't heard before. I thought it was funny. I laughed. He's got a very clean show.
Oh no, I know. He's
got a very clean show. It's not.
I'm not saying
he's touching on anything racy. He's not. He is giving you white bread and milk.
I'm not saying he's bad by any means. I'm just gonna go out there and say that in terms of great comedians, he shouldn't be like in the top 10, and then that would bring expectations down for people to see him and take him in for what he is. And there you go. That's basically what I'm saying. Because
he's one of the greats to me.
That's fine. I'm just saying that he's not.
and if it shows, like I watched the Carlin show, or like, yeah. Well, there's great comedians. Like you named who? George Carlin?
Carlin, Pryor. Those are the two top ones, I guess you'd say.
But can you compare them? Can you compare a clean comic with like very clean routines, very like anybody can watch it, to some of the guys where it's filthy?
Well, if I got to compare like
filthy comedy, like they're dropping bombs, they're smoking, they're drinking, they're fucking this and God is a fucking, you know what I mean? Like that's different, right? I'm not saying it's hilarious.
I mean, people used to say that Bill Cosby was fucking best clean comedian, not Seinfeld.
No, but his
Uh,
act. Well, yeah, but his act, like, people still like his act, like, regardless of, who he is as a person. There's people that would still want to see his comedy for his, whatever, for who he is or whatever.
oh yeah, yeah.
It's all different. Everybody's a bit different, right? And I get it. And I get within like the comedy world, there's this subculture of, this guy's a hack, this guy steals this guy, and I get it. I get
Well,
there's this whole underbelly
I don't think
of
that at all. It's like I said, I just think that like his status of greatest of all time is probably a hindrance to him, not like an asset. Because I don't think he thinks of himself that way either. So that's all I'm saying.
yeah, no,
Well,
you're
wasn't
probably right.
I wasn't
Yeah,
trying to
you're
be
probably
like
right.
too critical of someone who's really that good at something that I like to do too. But I just think of him. It's like it's one of those things where like I think he got super famous on top of the show, but being also a really good comedian, he had to get there somehow, right? But it's one of those things. I think like that show got to so much more height than he ever did as a comedian, and it's
Of
also like,
course. Yeah, yeah. He
and
would
it's
have been a
also
nobody without that show.
but it's also like the idea of like you become being super famous like that and trying to do comedy is really hard. That's why Dave Chappelle just has to like sneak up on people and do comedy, or like had to leave comedy for so long, like stuff like that. Because like people who are super famous celebrity types doing comedy, I think that has to be the hardest thing to do. Which is the reason why like Eddie Murphy of all people is struggling to get back into comedy because he doesn't like people's expectation of what Eddie Murphy is going to do is going to be far outweigh what he's actually going to do.
Well,
And
he's also
he's like
been
he can't.
gone
I mean,
for 30 years, right? From
yeah,
doing any kind of stand up or, like all of his comedy's been in front of a camera with takes
mm-hmm.
or written lines written for him. And then he can like improvise and, do whatever he wants. And it's funny because he's funny. Like he has that in him. But like, you go back to Raw, Delirious, all those other stand ups that he did. Is he the same guy today that he is then? Did he have money then?
Well, yeah, it's
Did he
also like
his life is totally different. He's a
yeah,
different guy. It's like I'm not the same person I was 20 years ago. And if I was like you could say I'm soft, like, up and coming 20 years ago, yeah, totally different, probably more witty, probably funnier. Now I'm probably a little more sluggish. you know.
you're dulled down Murray.
You know what? Yeah, I'm not as sharp, right? So like, and
I
he
think
doesn't.
like I got better, but like obviously, but like it was almost like I started doing comedy at like my early 20s, like 21, and I would get up and do it because I was dumb enough to do it, but almost like I didn't have I had like the urgency to want to go do it, and like but I wasn't good at it, like clearly thinking and writing then, but like you almost have to get over that to get to the stage where you're actually thinking like a real person or like actually an intelligent person, I guess. But I just think like being a super famous person, like those guys, has to be really hard because first off, you go in anywhere, people film you now and people like record you somehow. They have huge expectations of what you're gonna do. Um, and it's almost like they can't go like in comedy you got to go work out your stuff. So like most
Mhm.
guys how they write is they write down, like I write down not my jokes out in full. A lot of times I write my ideas out, like how I want to say them, blah blah blah. I got an idea of how I say it, and I gotta go like try it. And a lot of times you do try it and you fail a couple of times maybe doing that joke, and then you slowly piece together what the audience let you know what was working, and the audience basically helps you cobble that together and then build it up into that set. But then if you're like someone who can't go out into public in the same way, it's almost like that's got to be really hard because then you're faced with that adversity of like, now I gotta like worry about what people film of me when I go out or think of me, and I'm gonna have like that first instinct of like, this feels good to be on stage because people are happy to see me, but then you gotta fucking deliver all of a sudden because you're that person.
Oh, definitely. Like, yeah, like that's what you're expected to be.
Yeah.
Like, who was it? Who was it that? Jim Carrey, somebody like that, like Jim Carrey or fuck. It was like a funny, like an actor like that did a whole bunch of comedies, and maybe it was Robin Williams. Like I can't remember, man. But I remember seeing them in an interview, and like they were like just being real about it. And the interviewer says, like, you know, are you like, you know, are you? Do you feel pressure to be the characters that you portray? And you know, basically, does everybody expect you to be funny? And yeah, I think it was Jim Carrey, and basically, yeah, the saying like, yes, like you'd meet people and it's like, hey, you're the funny guy, be funny. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, and it's like, well, yeah, but I'm not always funny. Like, you know, I'm a person, and I'm just trying to I'm just trying to have dinner. Like, I'm just trying to eat a meal. Like, I'm not here to tell jokes right now. And
the weird thing,
you know,
too, in comedy is that, like, I feel like I'm a funny person in real life too. Like I'm kind of like, you know, whatever. But you're always like funny on stage, like in a way that you're not anywhere else, right? So
well, the camera's on, the lights are on, right?
yeah, and you have an act, you have something like jokes, you kind of got that pressure of the crowd. So if you're good at your thing, then you're probably really that's like your most highlighted funniness should be in that moment, or not should be, but it kind of is. And so like a lot of comedians tend to be not very funny people off stage because of like all sorts of reasons. But
you're right. Yeah. Some of them are very serious people.
Yeah. So that's
kind of very
like,
smart.
Yeah, or like introverted too. Like I have friends who are like good comics, and they kind of turn it on when they're on stage, but they're really kind of like introverted and kind of like introspective in a way where like they think kind of like differently. And when you're, and so like they're like they don't really joke around.
It's weird though that they would put themselves like, because I know people like that, and the last place they would ever go is in front of a group of people to do something, to be judged. And the way of judging you is by laughing at what you're saying. And if people don't laugh, for these people, that would be devastating. Like just the fact that they've gone up there, like they wouldn't, the first step would never happen. Even if like they had really, really keen knowledge or funny behavior, like even if they were very funny people, there's no fucking way they would go and do that. They would say, nope.
Yeah.
Not for me, even though I'd be fuck, you could probably write great comedy and probably kill, you know,
well,
or write for somebody else. And they're like, nope. So just the fact that somebody is willing to do that, there's something they're wanting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not that they're
I think those are the sort of people who like do that, like comedy, like it's like a really nice feeling when people connect with you in that way. But also, yeah, it can be the opposite when people don't connect with you, or like people are dismissive of you. I don't know how many times I've met other comedians. Like sometimes I feel like I'm a socially awkward person, but like, but I'm like nowhere near as bad as some people I run into. They barely can like hold eye contact with you and talk to you like off stage. You're just like, and yeah, you kind of realize that this person is probably putting out all their like effort to like make it seem like they're kind of normal on stage, you know, like and it's like not that they're putting on like a huge act, but they're definitely hiding like a lot of fear and anxiety. Or even if they, you know, they do have it when they kind of show on stage, it's not nearly as much as they really do. So
see, I'm probably the opposite, where like I probably would, because I don't do this, is I probably would be comfortable. And like I could probably deliver in a way that, you know what I mean, is like comfortable for, you know, to be watched and to communicate, but it's telling jokes. You know what I mean? Having material that people would want to hear. That is the problem for me. I think that would be the problem. I just don't think I would have anything. Like, I just don't think going up and talking about shit that I find funny would be funny to a room full of people. I think that works well in small groups, you know, sitting around, you know, and me going off on one of my things. But I think in that scenario, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? So like, if
you know what's weird is I think your thing would be you wouldn't be sure how to make like your make not like make jokes, but you wouldn't know how to build like an like bits and stuff like that, or different ideas or like jokes, like as like an act, I guess. But I think the problem is that
Exactly.
well, like the thing is, like I used to be like that too before I started watching. The best thing to do in that circumstance is to watch amateur comedy. Funny enough, because when you see professionals, it's so slick and so well done. It's hard to think like how you would do something similar. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like done their way, and it's something you probably can't duplicate because it's too good. But if you watch someone who's in the beginning and starting out, you can kind of be like, oh, so this is how you kind of do it. And then like you can do your own version of that. And then you kind of build yourself up. Whereas like when I first started, I was like, I don't know how to like I know how to be funny, but I didn't know how to like write jokes. And then I would write like little stories and start that do that like when I did like Humber night at Yuck Yucks and stuff like that. And then eventually I just went and started doing open mics and watching all these people. And it wasn't like they were influencing me in like what I was talking about, but I was kind of seeing how to do it because in those moments you're just like, wow, it's very apparent how you do this.
See those are things that people work on, and people can work on that for years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just don't. I have no patience for that.
Yeah, I mean, also like I remember,
like, I got tons of funny ideas. I got tons of funny things that I know is funny, and that if I told a person or people and got it out, everybody would find it funny. But it's finding a delivery method in that setting with a whole bunch of other things that you are going on that you gotta like. It's not the only thing you're gonna say, right? So you have to. I mean, I don't mind. I've seen comics and like, part of it, like I find it hilarious when somebody goes off on, they tell a joke and, whatever it succeeds or it doesn't. And it's like, all right, well, whatever. So speaking about condoms and like, just like, like just
bad segues,
just left turn, like and people laugh at the fact that they're just going to, okay, here we go. I'm taking you this way. And just kind of grab the room by the throat, and we're going down this path, and I find it works with me, where I'm like, okay, I want to see where this is gonna go now. Like this guy or girl is just, okay, we're going this way, and I find like clean transitions. Yeah, I that wouldn't be me, but yeah. Are you a clean transition person, or are you just throw it out there?
I don't know. I think I try to have my jokes. I try to do like a little like preamble. I don't normally like segue perfectly, but like I have like my style of joke telling is generally something that is based somewhat in reality, but then I kind of take it my own way. And then I try to like, I don't necessarily like write segues, so I try to just find a natural way of saying the next thing. But I've never really noticed where I've said something too many times, like since I've been doing it for a while, where I
can't. Do you ever shoot like? Do you ever, just because you're talking like right about that? Do you ever, when you're in the process or you're doing something like that, like let's say you're on, like you're speaking, you're in front of people. Do you ever just improv it? Like, do you ever like, because on the way there, maybe you had a coffee and you saw some old people and then it popped in your head and you're like, I wonder how much sex these old people have. And then like, you just decide like, you're going to put it in there. Like, you know what? Is that a weird thing to think when you're getting a coffee? Stuff like that.
How much cream does that guy put in?
Her. But you know what I'm saying? Like, or do you just stick with it? Or you're like, no, you know what? This is on my mind. And I think it's funny and I'm going to try it out and I'm going to see. Yeah. And you're never going to use it again. It's just because this is in your mind right now.
Well, I would say
you're going to do it.
The two ways that I think I kind of settled into doing comedy, there's two styles. So normally, like if I'm doing a set, it means I have like so much time. So then like I normally like plan out my jokes that I want to do that night. Some of them could be new, some of them could have been had for a bit or I'm working on or whatever, but they're normally like organized so I know how they're going to come. So it's more structured. The other time would be when I host a show, like all bets are off because I don't necessarily do material. I might do a little bit off the top, but like generally I am just feeling out the room And
Yeah,
you
you're
do,
fluid
do
with the yeah.
and you do crowd work, and I kind of enjoy that. Like, it's not like maybe as funny as a set because it's not as compact, but I think it's something you have to do to make people in comics kind of comfortable in a room. It's kind of be a good host and kind of like riff off of stuff happening. Like, um, I don't know, like, because then you can, like, I pay attention. It makes me more engaged in the show because then I pay attention to like the acts, like they're what they've said as jokes. It was weird if I had like a planned joke to go up with, but I listen to them, kind of find like what's something from their act that I could like work off or riff off of, and then or something going in the room or like happening, and there's less pressure for you to like do your own jokes, but at the same time you're on a tightrope more or less because you don't necessarily have. It's more easy to fail in that sense because you don't really have anything, so you're really working on your feet. But I find it's more rewarding because then if that comes off good, then you feel like, oh, I'm actually funny.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get it. So yeah, I get there's a couple of different ways to tackle it, and either way, it's very you got to have some guts, you know.
Yes, but I only have 22 more hours to kill.
Well, on that note,
should we kill this episode? Is that what you're saying? I think it's probably good.
I think we've meandered around.
Yeah, we were about like an hour 30 in, so.
And it's I think we talked about a few things, and then yeah. I mean, I'm good. I got a little bit of inside knowledge on the way that your comedic mind works, and your tastes and your ethic towards whether or not you would tell jokes about old people having sex or some other things.
Yeah, I mean, generally, like, I think the only time I think I told a joke about sex, then it went really kind of weird. I didn't. People liked it at the time, but then it was about my sister when I went home and did a show. And sorry, I had an act about because we're twins, right? And like someone was asking me like, "Oh, what would it be like if you had telepathy with your twin sister?" And I was like, "I hope I don't, because then I would know about all the time she's been with dudes." And trust me, she's probably been with a lot of dudes, something like that. And then like my mom was like, "You did that in front of your grandparents," and then the jokes about me I didn't like either. So it was like everyone in my family had grievances with my jokes, but mostly the sister joke was probably the
part of it. The reason, like, yeah, for sure, I would definitely see. That's the thing. I probably would not be showing it to my parents. Or grandparents, or anybody like that, girlfriends, whatever, people like that, whatever. But no, not, let's say none of my ancestors should see anything that I do.
Yeah, I guess that was sort of like because I've been doing these jokes and they were going over well. And then I was like, oh, I booked this show at home and I'm going to go do this show. And I was pumped about it. But I'm like, at the same point, like, you want to do your best material. And I'm like, yeah, one of my best jokes happens to be about my sister being a whore. I can't help it.
Yeah. On that note,
everybody, I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Evenings.